So we decided to put some eyebrows on our barn, and so I got the trusses welded up, got the boards in there, and just getting ready to lay out the steel. So let's get up there and I'll show you what I'm thinking of doing, I think it'll work out the best, and we'll get the steel put on here. So let me give you the rundown of what I've done so far. Is I have main post right here, you know, behind the steel. I've got a jack, like a jack stud here, and then I've got 2x12 doubled up headers inside and out. And so what I've done is I've run these lags into the main post, welded up a bracket here with little cleats on them to mount my 2x6s on. It's just a real simple structure. It's only about 30 inches long. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to lay my steel out to where the angle fits onto each rib, so that it has kind of a nice fit there. And then I'm going to cut these off to put my end on, and that way everything's lined up with these ribs and I got a clean start. And then I'll go down the other end and I'll just do it where it needs to be done. So you can see how my ribs are lining up there. Then I'm going to mark my rafters, and then I'm going to measure over and cut them off about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 underneath the steel to put my end plate on, and then I'll have that where I want it. So, and we'll have a good start. Everything will line up. Not that this is going to be seen all that much. It was just more or less just what I thought was a cleaner way to do it. So anyway, I'll get these marked and we'll get them cut. So I measured over, marked them right where they were, and now I'm going to move over 1.5 inches and going to cut them off there. So you can see here's where the steel lands. Here's where I'm cutting it off to put my rafter end on. So I'll cut these, all 3 of these, on this line, and I'll screw that end plate on there, and then I can put my first piece of steel on there. So I'll get those cut off, see how it looks. So we've got the end on here. We're going to lay our first piece of metal on there, get it pushed up against the siding and get it screwed down. Okay, so I've got all the panels up here except for the last one would be a cut piece. And so what I did was I came down to this end and I measured from this edge to here on all these boards, so I know that this end will be square with these pieces, and it worked out to where it's all square anyway. But that way I can cut this off, I can put my end piece on, cut this piece which would be kind of vertically, and everything will fit. You know, and you can measure over from your truss over and kind of double check to make sure everything's kind of square and going to line up and look decent. As you can see, my ribs are off. I'm guessing just by the look of it, these bends on the new pieces, all made by the same company, but it looks to me like the bends on the new pieces are just a little tighter than the old ones. Maybe new dies or they've changed something or whatever, but basically you can see where my meet up gets off a little bit. A lot of that could have been the way I put the panels up, but there seems to be a little deviation between here and here, and it's really not going to matter. This is just kind of decorative out on the front of the barn. It'll shield the doors, the garage doors, a little bit from sun and direct rain at certain times of the year. Um, you know, this isn't the way you do it if you were building from scratch, or if you were a perfectionist, you cut and flash and all that stuff. This just isn't necessary. This is just a lid over the garage doors just to shield a little sun, a little rain. And so I'll get these cut, get the end piece back up here, and get the panel cut, and then all this will be on, and then I'll come in, once all this is done, I'll come in and put my corner in under it, and then run my last screws in my edges. Now here's the functional part of it. It may look like much of nothing, but let me get this tape measure out here. And there's where the sun hits there from the edge of the concrete at 48 inches. You can see the truss structure in the shadows there. It's 48 inch back. And if you come over to this door, now the sun's is just a little before noon, and the sun is at about 18 inches. I see you can see that there, 18 inches roughly. So you can see that it's shielding the sun off the garage doors a little bit, which will help with, this cheap vinyl weather strip. It gets all buckled and puckered up, and we're going to replace it. You can see how bad it's gotten over here. We've been lagging deck screws into it to keep it from popping clear off the building. But that's the goal, is just to shield a little bit of sun when the sun starts to get hot, and then eventually by 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun's not on this part of the building anyway. So it just provides a little bit of sun protection, and that's why we did it. That and aesthetics. It's the big part is aesthetics. This end of the barn, it just didn't have a lot of character to it. We're getting ready to add a decorative piece up in the gable, and we'll go ahead and we'll put lights in these. We'll put stained and urethane shiplap on the bottom side, and that'll look real nice, and from a distance it'll look good. I'll show you a picture when we get it done. So here's to drive the point home a little bit more. You see where that shadow angle is there, like right in here, this area. It's 3 or 4 feet off the ground on the high side, and maybe a foot or so off the ground on the low side. And you see how tight the shadow is. That's just a lot less sun than over here. And if you look and you go all the way up, you get almost to the top before you see where the sun's shielded. So this is what it looks like all finished up, with the shiplap on and the lights in and all the trim up. We got both sides of it done, and looks real nice. It accents the barn well. That's like a 412 pitch on that, so it's not real obvious that it's got much of a lean to it. Almost looks like a straight eyebrow when you're standing out in the driveway, kind of straight on. But it's all black steel except for the roof edge is galvanized. So from a distance, it kind of gives it a little depth and makes it look good. But it really looks good at night with the porch light and everything on it. Come out real nice. And once we get that gable up there, it's a much more inviting sight, especially when people are pulling up in the evening. This end of the barn was just kind of dead, and it just didn't look very inviting. And now with all the light on this end, it sure makes a world of difference. And real excited about the little bit of money that we put into these, what it really added to this end of the barn. So we're real happy with it. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. I made the comment that it wasn't too expensive, but it still cost about $1,000. So it's not a gimme. You still got to pay for some stuff along the way, but it sure added a bunch to the barn, and it makes this end look so much better, and I'm so much happier with it. So Again, thanks for tuning in, staying with us this long, and hope to see you back again on the next video. Thanks.